Okay, continuing on configuring and managing Windows Server 2016, in this video, which is the part 2, we will start talking about desired state configuration. PowerShell 4.0, first appearing in Windows Server 2012 R2. The feature desired state configuration, or DSC, gives you a way to manage and maintain servers with simple declarative statements. DSC syntax makes it possible for you to just tell the server how it should be configured without using an actual command for performing configuration steps. DSC can operate in one of two methods, either push mode or pull mode. In the push mode, a server configuration is manually sent to one or more target servers by an administrator. This mode is best used to test your DSC configuration without having to configure a pull server. In the pull mode, instead of DSC configuration having to be sent to the remote server, servers themselves can pull their configuration from a central server by using a standard web protocol. This technology eliminates the need to open additional firewall ports. As mentioned, push mode is a good way to test your DSC configuration without having to set up a DSC pull server. In push mode, you set up the configuration on a desktop computer and manually begin the DSC process by sending configuration to target machines. However, to realize the power of DSC, you set up a pull server and the target computers check with the server every 15 minutes to see if a configuration is available or not. You create a DSC script in PowerShell's ISE, a PowerShell development environment that you can actually open from the tool menu and server manager. The basic steps for using a DSC are as you can see on the slide. So first is going to be creating a script in the PowerShell ISE. Then you run the script to create configuration files called management object files, or MOF. And then you finally enter the commandlet at the PowerShell prompt, which is start-dsc configuration commandlet. Here is an example on how the configuration file can look like. For more information on how to create a DSC configuration file, visit docs.microsoft.com and then search for DSC configuration file. That is going to bring you up to this document that you're looking at right now. Windows Server 2016 comes with DSC version 2 and lets you automate a variety of configuration tasks on a set of computers using scripts like the previous example that you just saw. Some of the automated tasks include enabling or disabling server roles and features, managing services like starting or stopping a service, retrieving the configuration from a server, deploying a software, managing registry settings, managing files and folders, managing accounts, and running PowerShell scripts. The configuration task you can perform with DSC is based on DSC resources. To see a list of DSC resources in your computer, just basically go to the PowerShell, key in get-dsc resource, and hit enter. It's going to populate the service resources that are available to you, and you can actually take a look at all those. A number of DSC resources are built into DSC, but you can also add more resources and therefore more configuration tasks. By downloading the DSC resource kit available on Microsoft TechNet, you can add as many resources as available. To retrieve a syntax for a DSC resource, use the command get-dsc resource -syntax and then the name of the service. Right now I just put service. If you hit on enter, it's going to populate the syntax for the resource service. Okay, so you have the resource service over here and the syntax is being explained for you right down here. So this is a very resourceful and useful command to show you how to set up your syntax for a specific DSC resource. For you guys, it is very useful to understand and know that beginning PowerShell 5.0 IntelliSense was added to DSC. And this new feature allows you to tab and control space to autocomplete key names. So basically, when you arrive at any place, um, when you want to put a command in, you just start typing it in. And as soon as one or two letters are typed in, IntelliSense is going to give you suggestion over what commands are available, which at that point you can either click on the command which was suggested to you or do control space so that the command is going to automatically fill in the syntax needed. That makes life much easier, and for sure I want you guys to use it as much as you can and get used to it. Okay, let's take a look and see if we have the latest and greatest version of uh, PowerShell that comes with all those bells and whistles. So to do so, you need to run a command which is get-host, and the condition is select object and go for version. So when I hit an enter, it is telling me the version for my PowerShell is 5.1. Blah blah. So I have PowerShell version 5. If you happen not to have PowerShell version 5, which is the latest on your system, you simply can go to Microsoft website and look for Windows Management Framework 5.1 and you download it from here. This download includes Windows Management Framework 5.1 for sure, which has the latest PowerShell, the PowerShell desired state configuration DSC, Windows Remote Management WinRAM, and Windows Management Instrumentation. So it already will update all of those. So if you don't have the latest and greatest version, you want to go to the Microsoft, go to the download center and search for Windows Management Framework. In our case, we have it, so I simply am going to close this page and go back there again. Get host, select object version is going to tell you what version you're running. What is important is this 5.1, which already is on this computer. So considering using DSC, remember that the Microsoft Hyper-V Server standalone product SKU does not contain an implementation of desired state configuration. So it cannot be managed by PowerShell DSC or Azure Automation State Configuration. And then later when you learn more about the Azure, you're going to know the SKUs are different based on what product with what features you're getting. But for now, just remember the Hyper-V Server standalone. Remember, that's the key. The standalone product does not support the PowerShell DSC. In addition to automating server configuration tasks, DSC can also determine whether a server still has the desired configuration, and if not, to restore it to desired state. For example, if someone changes the configuration of a server, DSC can determine that it has been changed and then change it back to what it should actually be. At the heart of DSC is the Local Configuration Manager, or LCM, which is responsible for sending or let's say pushing and receiving or pulling configurations, applying configurations, monitoring, and reporting discrepancies between the desired state and the current state of a server. When a discrepancy exists, a term referred to as configuration drift or simply just a drift, DSC is responsible for applying the desired state configuration to resolve the drift. One major enhancement in DSC version 2 is the ability to split a configuration into multiple configuration files. In this way, multiple people can create different configurations according to their expertise. Each partial configuration can then be used independently or combined with any other partial configuration to configure a server. For example, let's say in DSC version 1, if you needed to configure a server as a DHCP, DNS, and file and print server, you would create a single DSC script that would be used by each server that required the configuration. If you needed a server with just DHCP and DNS, a different script would have been required that excluded the file and print components. With DSC version 2 now, you can create a script for each role and deploy each script independently according to how it is needed. For example, you can deploy the DNS, DHCP, and file and print scripts to all servers that need all three components, but only the DNS and DHCP scripts to those servers that don't require file and print components. The server management and configuration tools you have used so far perform tasks on local server. Most networks have more than one server, and although you can perform a task by signing into the console at each server or using remote desktop, there are more convenient ways to manage multi-server environments remotely, as we will talk about now. By managing servers remotely, you can take advantage of the benefits of server core yet still be able to use a GUI on a remote machine. In addition, remote management reduces the need for physical keyboard and monitor for each server. Most remote management tasks are handled by using Server Manager, a Microsoft Management Console MMC, or a PowerShell command. In Windows Server 2016, you can manage all your servers from a single Server Manager interface. In Server Manager, you can manage all roles and features installed on any server and view the status of all servers, including events and performance data. To do this, you must add servers to Server Manager. The process starts with clicking on Manage and then Add Servers. If the server where you're running Server Manager is a member of a domain, and the server you want to add is also a domain member, you can add it by using three different methods: searching the Active Directory, searching the DNS, or importing a text file. So the first method is using Active Directory. This method is probably the easiest. You can just look for the member that you want to add in this list, and the member shows up here. Just click on it and then move on. Next one is DNS. Here you type the server name or IP address in the text box, and then from the list you can select the server that you want. At this point, we don't have any server added to this network. That's why the lists are not populated. But basically what you want to do is you want to put the IP address or the name of the server, look for it, and it's going to show over here, and you click on it. And then finally, it's the importing file, which you can basically browse to the import file that you want to bring in. You browse for and then select a text file containing a list of server names or IP addresses on the import tab. Remember, there is one per line, and all servers listed in the file will be added. So that's just basically a list of all the IP addresses or the names of the servers you want to add them in. So when you actually have the names and servers added into the network, this is how you're going to see different servers, and you can choose from them, click on OK, and move on. So in Windows Server 2016, you can manage servers running Windows Server 2003 and later. However, you can't manage a more recent version of Windows Server than the version on which Server Manager is running. For example, you can't manage a Windows Server 2016 server from a Windows Server 2012 server, but you can manage a Windows Server 2012 from a 2016 server. If the server where you are running Server Manager is a member of a workgroup rather than a domain, or the server you want to manage is a workgroup member, first you need to add the remote server to the trusted hosts list on the computer running Server Manager. Okay? To do this, you actually need to run a PowerShell command. Let's go to the PowerShell. Let's pull up our PowerShell and look at the command. So basically the command is going to be set item, and then you're going to have wsman, and then you go from here, go and find the local host, okay, and then you go for you go for client, okay, and then after client you go for trusted hosts, okay, and then whatever the remote server name is going to go here, okay, and then you're going to have a dash, and the condition is going to be concatenate dash force. So this literally is the command you need to run in order to make the server trusted and join it. So the remote server name, as we said, is the name, or it can be the IP address. Let me just scroll it a little bit so we can start it right over here. Okay, so this remote server name over here could be the IP address or the name of the server, which is a workgroup member and you want to manage. Okay, the concatenate option adds the entry to the list instead of overriding the existing list. So what happens is when we put this concatenate command over here, if we have a list of trusted servers already, this is not going to override. This is just going to get appended to the list. Okay. After adding the remote server to the trusted host list, you can add the server to the server manager by using one of the three methods that we already discussed. That could be searching DNS or importing the text files. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Just make sure you make it trusted before you start managing it, and this only applies when that is not a member of domain and is in a standalone server. So let's go back to our slide set and start talking about the new subject, which is using server manager groups. If you have only a few servers to manage, you can add them as described previously and access them by clicking All Servers in the Server Manager. However, if you have dozens or even hundreds of servers to manage, you might want to organize them in groups, such as by department, maybe, geographical location, or function. For example, you can group all servers related to operational department and all servers in the Phoenix office or San Francisco office or all DNS servers and so on and so forth in one group. By organizing servers in this manner, you can see a group's status at a glance. Servers can be a member of more than one group, so you can place a domain controller in the Phoenix office in both the domain controllers group and the Phoenix group, for example. To create a server group in Server Manager, you have to again go back to the manage, and let me just pull up this slide pretty quick. So what we could do is you click on manage, create server groups from the menu, and give the group a name. Let's take a look at it pretty quick over here. So I'm gonna minimize PowerShell and close this guy. So you go to the manage, okay, and you go to the create server group. And over here, you see we already have one server over here. We just need to set the group name. I just call it Ellie's group or Ellie group, okay? And now this guy is going to be a member of Ellie group, and I just click on OK. And as you can see, Ellie group is now created right here. If I click on it, now I have this group right there. So from here, you can click on the tasks and edit the group, delete the server group or anything. You have full control after creation, so I'm going to click on edit group. As you can see, this is Ali's group, okay? And the computers in here for now is nothing. So I click on the server that I wanted to make a member of Ali's group and just click on it. So now, as you can see, DC01 is a member of Ali group. So now that it's done, I click on OK, and it's going to show up over here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and notice that there is a restart pending now, because now that this happened, that server needs to be restarted. I'll go there, I'll go delete server group, and I'm going to delete this because this was just here for practice. By default, Windows Server 2016 Remote Management is enabled via Windows Remote Management or WinRemote. WinRemote provides a command line interface for performing a variety of management tasks. Running in background, it allows commands or applications that require Windows management, instrumentation, or WMI, or PowerShell to access the server remotely. To change the remote management setting, you have to click on the settings next to the label Enable Remote Management in Local Server Properties Windows, as you can see over here. So go to the Local Manager, and let us just go back to our VM pretty quick. And as you can see, this is the local servers. You click on local servers, okay? And then you have the remote management over here where you're going to click on enable. And then from here, you can just manage it. If you want to disable it, just click that and click OK. But remember, by default, remote management is actually enabled and ready to go. You can also use PowerShell in order to configure the remote management. So basically, the command for that is when remote, okay? And then you just put in quick config, and that's all you need to do. So if this is the first time you're running this command ever, you may notice this message, which is asking you to configure local account token filter policy to grant administrative rights to local user. And this is normal for the first time. So to fix this, you can either directly go to the registry and locate the local account token filter policy high key in the registry and set the value to 1, or you can use a shell command over here, a commandlet, and just update it to 1. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and open the regedit to go ahead and hunt for the high key that I'm missing. Remember, the high key may be there and the value is set to 0, or the high key may not even be there and you need to create it over there and set the value to 1. Okay, it's important to remember any of those possibilities may happen. So let's navigate to it. So we want to go to the high key of the local machine. We want to go to the software, okay? And from software, we want to go to Microsoft. And from Microsoft, we want to go to Windows. So let's scroll down till we see Windows. And our friend Windows is not even here yet. There we go, go. Okay, here it is. So we go to Windows. And from Windows, we go to the current version. Of course, we need the current version, right? And then from here, we go to policies. Let me just see where the policies are. Here it is, policies, okay? And from the policies, you want to go to system. And then over here, you want to look for the high key of local filter. And as you can see, we don't have that high key. This means that in this case, I need to generate the high key over here before I go any further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the edit menu, okay, and click on the new. And from there, I want to create a double word, okay, this D word over here. So I click on the double word and my double word is already created. Of course, I'm going to call it carefully local account token filter policy. So guys, be careful over here. A typo or a mismatch over here may cause you problems. So it should be exactly local and account double C, okay, with the token TOKEN, and then you have the filter policy, and of course you generate this, okay. Now that it is generated, just double click on it, and the value for it, which is showing 0 over here, should be set to 1, okay. And at this point, I'm going to click OK, and my high key is created over here. I'm done with regedit. For now, I'm just going to minimize it, going back to my PowerShell, and run the command one more time. So that was winrun, okay, and I wanted to do a quick config and run it. And at this point, you see I don't receive that message anymore, and it tells me VRM service is already running in this machine because I just created the high key and set it to 1, okay? You may be on a computer that has the high key, but it is set to 0. So let's take a look at what's going to happen. So if I go back here, look at this high key and set it to be 0, I'm going to minimize it again, coming back here and run the command again. And as you can see, now it is asking me to configure that again. So the problem actually went back to where it was. So what I wanted you to see is whether you have it and the value is 0, or you don't even have it at all, you need to come back here and make sure this works properly, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and basically uh, show you the good result once more. This is one of those processes that you guys are gonna do for a lot of things when it comes to managing your windows, going back and forth to the regedit is a common deal when you start building a server from scratch. But then after you're done and your settings are in there, from that point on, you have no issues and you technically are going to forget about it. Okay, so some of the commands that you can use, and let's try one of them, is configure, and then I'm going to put an SMR. Okay, AMO thing that's exe. So, and let me just do a .get actually. So this command displays the current status of the remote. So it is telling me that the server manager remoting is enabled. Okay, you can have the same command with enable and disable at this point. Okay, so instead of get, I can simply say disable, which in this case it's going to disable it, or I can use the same command going for enable. So that's pretty much it regarding the subject for now. We will come back and discuss how the remote management happens in near future very soon and possibly next video. So now let's go ahead and do a last check. I just want to get the status over here pretty quick and make sure the status is all good, which is all good. And let me just clear it. Next step is going to be talking about how to configure Windows Firewall for the remote management. Okay, so let us go back to our slides and talk about configuring Windows Firewall for remote management. Okay, adding a server to Server Manager and enabling Win Remote gives you only a few remote management capabilities. You can view the status of remote servers, run PowerShell, add and remove server roles, restart a server, and perform some additional tasks. However, to use MMC to manage a remote server, you need to make some firewall rule changes on the remote server. To further complicate matters, um, different MMCs require different firewall role changes. If you right click a remote server in Server Manager and click Computer Management, for example, you get an error message that states that you must enable some firewall rules on the remote server. Configuring firewall rules with desktop experience is the next step you need to do. So if the remote server you want to manage is running the desktop experience, you can use the Windows Firewall with Advanced Security MMC to configure firewall rules. You need to sign into the remote server and open the Windows Firewall with Advanced Security console. In the inbound rules section, enable the following rules as you can see on the slide. So you want to enable COM plus network access, remote event log management, remote event log management RPC, and remote event log management RPC EP map. Enabling the preceding rules makes it possible to run most MMCs and snap-ins for managing a remote server. You can see those four highlighted here in the list of all inbound rules, and you need to make sure all of them say yes under the enabled list. You can also configure the firewall inbound rules through use of the command line. So to enable the four rules on the slide that you just saw, you use the netsh with the syntax that you can see over here. For practice, just give it a try on your computers and try to see if you can enable and disable those. Of course, to use the PowerShell to configure the firewall, you're going to use these commands. After you have enabled the firewall rule, you can create a Windows firewall with Advanced Security MMC snap-in on a client computer or another server to manage the server core computer's firewall. What you see on this slide are some other firewall rule groups you might want to enable on the server core computer for remote management with MMCs. File and print sharing enables use of shared folders as snap-in, and most of the other snap-ins in computer management with the exception of Event Viewer and Device Manager. Remote event log management allows using the Event Viewer snap-in. Remote volume management enables you to use the disk management snap-in to manage disks remotely. This firewall rule group must be enabled on both the server core computer and the computer where you are running disk management. Remote service management allows using the services snap-in. Performance logs and alerts enables use of the performance monitor snap-in. Remote scheduled tasks management allows using the task scheduler snap-in.